environment. Economics 101 says that capital flees from uncertainty, and I'm doing some reading at the World Bank, and I've worked with the United States Institute of Peace on training law enforcement agencies around the world on trying to establish an environment where not only economies flourish, but scientific discovery flourishes as well. The linkages are unmistakable. We are all in this together. So once, besides the skill sets, it always goes to a question of attributes. What does it mean to go global? What does it mean to engage? Is it a mindset? And I was really intrigued by your comments earlier this morning, and Stephen's as well, talking about the non-scientific skills, the people skills that are so critical. And it seems to me that it really starts with a mindset. Our perspective today is based on all the yesterdays that went before. Our environment, our parents, where we were born, our educational levels, our educational opportunities. All of those go into making up our paradigms, how we view the world, and our willingness to go beyond our comfort zones. I have 2 children. They're both grown now. My son lives in Japan. My daughter lives at home. And it's because of their comfort zones. My son is thriving in the international environment, and my daughter really is not too interested in leaving Shawnee right now, although we keep trying to push her out the door. Okay. So we bring different perspectives to the table. But certainly one thing I think we all share, those of us that engage internationally, is a desire to get beyond our current boundaries, to experience the unknown, to actually be willing to walk into that fog bank, knowing that even though we can't see the light at the end of the proverbial tunnel, we know that it's out there somewhere, and as long as we can bounce pretty good and recover, then we'll get out there. Now, tied to that, of course, is an abiding self-confidence. And it seems to me, again, speaking as kind of an outsider to this conference here, that that's really one of the underlying principles that you all are talking about, which is to instill in the students or build systems, mentoring systems, into students that allow them to take those steps that they really wouldn't be willing to otherwise. And so it's important for this discussion for these 3 days to take place. So let's talk a little bit about some opportunities in the world of economic development. The philosophers tell us that once we've been to someplace new, we are forever changed. The question is what the nature of the changes are, and if those changes are guided and are they protected, such that we are able to improve our own lives, but also the lives of the students and the people they impact as well. But it's exhausting. I mean, it's hard to work across cultures. Again, the United States Institute of Peace, I would encourage you to hit their website. They have done some tremendous work on cross-cultural communication. We engage in these discussions, and we struggle with languages, and we struggle with nuances and body languages, and understanding that yes in Oklahoma means that, okay, we're in agreement, but yes in Japan says, I hear what you're saying, but don't take it for yes at all. Okay. And this idea that there are high context and low context societies. Low context societies are generally European based, very business oriented, very contract oriented. Saying, this is who I am, this is my product, it's good for you, it's good for me, here's the deal, here's the signature, let's sign it and move on. High context societies is a juxtaposition, very much relationship oriented. And that brings us to Native America. Now, it's very dangerous to talk about an Indian as a Native American perspective because there are so many differences between the tribes. That said, generally speaking, I think that one of the misses is that we see so often is this notion of I'm talking here and you're talking here or vice versa. So not only do we miss each other, but we have collisions as well. I did my doctoral dissertation on the relationship between tribal and municipal governments. And I gave municipal officials I interviewed as the tribal officials I interviewed, the same sets of questions. And I asked them to rate 7 traits in terms of orders of importance. First was taxation, the next was sovereignty, economic development, gaming, law enforcement, infrastructure, and the one I can never remember. Okay? And so I asked them how I rank this in terms of orders of importance. The number 1 issue for the tribes was sovereignty. Okay? The number 1 issue for the municipal officials was taxation. Where did they rank on the other side? Just think about this. For the municipal officials, where did sovereignty rank? Last. Okay? For the tribal officials, where did taxation rank? Last. Okay? So there was a miss, there was a collision there, but interestingly, the number 2 for both of them was economic development. So that's common ground. All right? That's an area that we can talk to each other, maybe sometimes without resulting in vitriolic behavior. And that's one of the major reasons I'm in economic development. I like the field, it's intellectually interesting, and it allows me to play like I'm an economist sometimes, and play like I'm an engineer and sometimes, and play like I'm a physicist. And so I get to read these books that I understand about 15 or 20% of, and at least carry on some sort of conversations. So it's fun, and it's rewarding, and it's aggravating, and it's exhausting, and it's worth it. And so I applaud everybody at this conference for the work you're doing, because you're building foundations upon which the future generations will benefit way beyond our comprehension even here today. So from a practical standpoint, as I close, let's talk about some mechanisms for helping students move into economic development, move into the process of monetizing and commercializing scientific discoveries. One way to do that, frankly, is mentorship. I just shared a wonderful voicemail that I got about an hour ago from a young lady who I first met 5 years ago after I gave a lecture on economic development at the Native American Studies program at OU. She is now a second-year law student. She ended up, after me talking, she contacted me about a week later and asked if I'd be willing to take her on as an intern. Frankly, I didn't want to do that. I didn't have the time, but she made a good case. She came on board and ended up doing some critical work that served as the basis for obtaining the foreign trade zone for our industrial park. She's now a 2-year law student at OU, and it was just offered a full-time position with a federal judge in Phoenix upon her graduation next year. Wow, I mean, how do you touch that? You know, I've been offered several academic positions and turned them all down, but there's something to be said about hearing back from the students. You know? So mentorship at the academic level for students, but that leads in then to the mentorship within the business world as well. I encourage all students who are interested in international trade to get on with a freight forwarder, these logistics experts, or some other business that's doing work internationally. Because just by being in the environment and getting used to it, almost by osmosis, if you'll allow me that stretch, we learn from that just being there, just being in place, so to speak. So internships, mentorships. Another place to look is the U.S. State Department, quite frankly. A good friend of mine is Rob Andrews. He is the senior U.S. State Department official in the state of Oklahoma, and he will be one of my speakers at the Sovereignty Symposium. Now, the Sovereignty Symposium, if anybody's interested in Native America, is June 8th and 9th. It's at the Skirvin in downtown Oklahoma City. It's through the Oklahoma Supreme Court. So oscn.net, or you can contact me. This will be the 28th year of the conference, and he will have a booth there, and he will be talking to anyone who arrives, but specifically targeting Native American students on opportunities for the U.S. State Department. That's a good place to start, and then they have a commercial service within the State Department that has done some great things as well. There are others. The American Association of University Research Parks, great place to start. The International Economic Development Council, I'm on the board of directors, and there are numerous other opportunities. So we take it from the standpoint of this mindset of why do we want to engage? Do we have the self-confidence to do it and the energy? And then we look for opportunities to do that. And that, I think, is what this conference is about. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions later. Thank you.